State may call its next witness.
The state would call Mona Weedy to the stand.
You step up here, please, and I'll swear you in.
Raise your right hand. Swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
I'm Mona Weedy.
And for the record, would you please spell your first name and your last name?
MonaWehde.
Ms. Weedy, where do you live?
In Hutchinson, Minnesota.
How long have you lived there?
About 8 years.
Prior to living in Hutchinson, Minnesota, at some point did you live in Early, Iowa?
Yes.
Do you remember what time period you would have lived in Early?
I moved there in 1980 and left there in, I think, 2002.
In December of 2001, you were living in Early, Iowa?
Yes.
Do you remember what address?
201 Linden Lane.
And prior to in early December of 2001, who else was living in your home?
My husband, Brett, Dustin, my son, Ashley, my daughter, and Brianna, my daughter.
How old is Ashley?
Ashley's 24 now.
And Brianna?
21.
When was Dustin born?
August 1st, 1981.
How old would have Dustin been on December 13th of 2001?
20.
Was Dustin still living at home at that time?
He was.
And was there a certain area of the home where his room was located?
Dustin's room was in the basement.
Did Dustin graduate from high school?
Yes.
And what high school did he graduate from?
Shayla Cresslin.
Do you remember what year Dustin would have graduated?
2000.
In December of 2001, was Dustin working outside the home?
He had a couple different jobs.
What type of jobs did he have?
One, he was working at the Dairy Queen, and I don't really recall what he did there. I think he did cleaning. And then he got a job for a short time at the ethanol plant, and that was in construction.
When Dustin was in school, let's say high school, did he have to attend any type of special classes?
They did put him in the resource room.
To your knowledge, was Dustin ever diagnosed with any type of mental health diagnosis?
He did have some diagnosis. I know first he was diagnosed as ADD.
And for the record, do you know what that is?
Attention deficit disorder.
Do you remember when he was diagnosed with the attention deficit disorder?
He might have been in 3rd grade, and I'm honestly not for sure what year it was.
Was there any other type of diagnosis?
I know he was diagnosed with ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder.
Do you have any recollection to when Dustin would have been diagnosed with that?
It was probably shortly after the first diagnosis. He had diagnosis starting like in 3rd grade. It might have been 4th grade when he got that one.
Through high school, did Dustin have a lot of friends?
Not really.
Did Dustin have certain hobbies or interests he enjoyed doing?
He liked to go golfing with his dad, snowmobiling with his dad. He enjoyed the computer. He liked to play games on the internet. That's really what he did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Weedy, I've handed you State's Exhibit number 89. Can you tell us what this is?
My son, I think he was dressed up like the Fonz for like homecoming time.
The State would offer into evidence State's Exhibit number 89.
It is received.
Permission to publish.
Yes.
Ms. Weedy, I want to go back to, I was asking you some questions about Dustin's mental health. To your knowledge, did he later have any other type of mental health diagnosis?
I know he had other traits of different diagnoses, and I don't really remember all the different ones.
Was there any concern about him having any type of auditory hallucinations?
I know that's been brought up, and I don't have a clue when that was diagnosed.
Was Dustin on any type of medication in December of 2001?
I don't think so in 2001.
Prior to 2001, was he on any type of medication?
I remember in 3rd grade when he was diagnosed ADD, he was on Ritalin, and I know there was a time when he was on Prozac, and I don't know if he was 14, 15, 16.
Any other medication concerning mental health issues that he was
I
on?
recall.
Was there ever a situation where Dustin and any of your daughters got into a fight?
There was one occasion I was at work and the babysitter had called and said that Dustin had grabbed
Sustained.
Ms. Weedy, this one incident, which daughter did it involve?
Ashley.
When did it happen? About what year?
Maybe 95.
Do you remember how old Dustin would have been?
He was probably, I'm going to say 16 or so. Ashley would have been 13, and he could have been 15 and her 12. Yeah, it's hard to remember when.
Did you have to go to the doctor with Ashley?
I just took her to the doctor because she was complaining about her arm.
And when you took her to the doctor, did anything happen to her arm? Did they do anything?
They didn't. There wasn't anything wrong with her arm.
They didn't have to put it in a cast or anything?
No.
Were there any other incidents that you have any recollection where Dustin and his sisters got into a physical fight where somebody had to be taken to the doctor?
No.
Was there ever an allegation of Dustin having a BB gun?
Yes.
And how old was Dustin when he had this BB gun?
17 maybe.
And do you know why Dustin had the BB gun?
Yes. Because his dad was going to take his dog away, and he had his dog in his room, and when his dad come to get the dog, Dustin stood there with the BB gun and said, "You can't have my dog."
To your knowledge, did Dustin ever threaten you or any other family member with any other weapon beside the BB gun?
No.
And was it just one incident?
Yes.
What kind of dog did Dustin have?
We had a mutt dog that got pregnant, and it was a mutt dog.
Was there ever a time that you had guns in the house?
There was a time, yes.
And were the guns taken from the house?
We,
Were they removed from the home?
yes, we removed them.
And why did you remove them?
Just for safety purposes of children in the house.
Were you concerned about Dustin harming other people?
No.
What were you concerned Dustin doing with the guns?
We weren't really concerned of Dustin doing anything with the guns. We just didn't want the guns in the house because there were children in the house.
In 2001, did you know the defendant, Tracy Richter now, then Tracy Roberts?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
I met her through real estate. I was in real estate, and that's how we first became acquainted.
So in 2001, you were employed doing what?
In 2001, I was a real estate broker of my own office.
Did you do legal transactions, or I shouldn't say legal, but did you do real estate transactions with the defendant?
Yes.
And her husband then, Michael Roberts?
Yes.
Was there more than one?
Yes.
Do you know where the defendant was living on December 13th of 2001?
Yes.
How close was where the defendant was living to your house in blocks-wise?
Probably about 8 blocks.
One of you just pull the microphone a little bit closer.
So, Ms. Weedy, so it's clear we could hear that. How close was your home, where Dustin Weedy was living in December 2001, to the defendant's home?
About 8 blocks.
I'm going to turn your attention now to December 12th of 2001. This will be the day before the shooting. Did you have any phone conversation with the defendant?
Yes.
Do you remember if it was in the morning or afternoon?
It was in the afternoon.
Do you remember if you called the defendant or she called you?
She actually called me that time.
Do you know initially what you and the defendant would have talked about?
Yes.
What was that?
We had a real estate transaction that we were preparing to close.
Did the topic change after you talked about the real estate transaction?
Yes.
What was talked about next?
Then Tracy was upstairs in her bedroom, and she was just telling me how May, her 1-year-old, was in there with her, and the dogs were in the house, and the dogs were licking and kissing May's face, and we were just kind of laughing about that.
Did at some point the conversation turn to Dustin?
Yes,
Who raised that issue?
I did.
And what did you raise?
I asked Tracy what this was that Ashley, my daughter, had been telling me about. She had some work for Dustin to do.
What did the defendant say when you asked her about some work that she had for Dustin to do?
She said, oh,
Your Honor, in answer to the objection, received the answer is correct. If it's testimony, it's hearsay from Ashley to
This is a conversation between the defendant and the witness, correct?
Yes.
Objection's overruled.
So what did the defendant say when Dustin's name was raised after you mentioned what you just said?
Tracy said, yeah, we have a whole bunch of copies that we want Dustin to make. And I said something like, well, Dustin's not real speedy about getting jobs done. And she goes, oh, that's okay. Just send Dustin down in the next day or two. This will be a trial basis. Send him down on his own the next day or two. And don't get Mom involved because he's 20, you know.
Did the defendant say a whole bunch of copies of what to make?
No, she just said a whole bunch of copies.
Then why did you talk to the defendant about Dustin not being very fast?
Because Dustin didn't like to do his jobs at home. He was putsy and put it off. And
how did the defendant respond when you told her that?
she just said it's okay because it's a trial basis, and if he does a good job, there'll be more work for him.
After that conversation, did you talk to the defendant any other time prior to December 13th?
I don't believe so.
On December 12th of 2001, did the family have a certain car, or did you have more than one vehicle?
Our family,
Yes.
we had several vehicles.
Was there a white Pontiac as one of them?
Yes,
Who was a white Pontiac registered to?
to my husband, Brett.
Did anyone in the family use the white Pontiac more than anybody else?
That was basically Dustin's car.
Did you use the car, the white Pontiac, on December 12th of 2001?
Yes.
And why were you using it on that day?
My car was in a garage or needed something repaired on it, so I borrowed Dustin's car for that day.
And when you borrowed the car for that day, did you do anything to the car?
I cleaned it out.
When you say cleaned it out, the inside, out, I mean the front area?
I cleaned out the front and back seat and put my belongings in there and added my signs to the trunk. And then when I got done, I took my belongings all out of the front and the back of the car.
So when you were done using the car on December 12th, did you have any of your belongings on the back seat?
Not to my knowledge.
And did you have any of your belongings on the front seat?
No.
May I approach?
Yes.
Starting with State's Exhibit 61. Ms. Weedy, this has been identified as a computer in the back of the white Pontiac and a monitor. Did you see that on December 12th of 2001 when you were in the car?
No.
State's Exhibit 59. On the front seat area of the car, when you had it on December 12, 2001, did you see a pink spiral notebook?
No.
Did you look in the front and the back seat area when you were in the car?
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 13, which is this pink spiral notebook. Did you ever buy Dustin Weedy a pink spiral notebook?
No.
Had you ever seen this pink spiral notebook before, within the shooting happened on December 13, 2001. Did you see it at that time?
No.
Did you see it within the 2 to 3 years after the shooting?
No.
State's Exhibit number 87. Ms. Weedy, and I should show you at the top of the page, in State's Exhibit 87 is some writing. Do you see that?
I can't read it from here, but
Let me hand it to you, sir. Do you see some writing at the top of the page?
yes.
And do you recognize the handwriting on the top of the page?
Yes, I do.
Was this a piece of paper or a copy of it shown to you on December 18th, 2001 by law enforcement?
I've seen it before and know the date, but yeah, I'm sure that it was shown to me.
Do you recognize the handwriting at the top of the page?
Yes.
Whose handwriting is it?
It's Dustin's.
And at the bottom of the page, you see there's a handwritten statement there. Do you see that?
Yes.
This appears to be the page that the law enforcement officers showed you on that day.
Correct.
And there's also a statement there about, put it on the elbow so I get it correct. It says Mona had just purchased notebook for school, had similar at house. Had you purchased notebooks for your kids at school?
Yes.
And had you had spiral notebooks at your house?
Yes.
Did you have any pink spiral notebooks at your house?
I don't think we ever had a pink spiral notebook.
Do you ever remember Dustin having a pink spiral notebook?
No.
Would this be appropriate time, Your Honor?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to recess for the day. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.